Where did sailors go? We are not seeing them in any concerts. We are not getting anything new from them. No content. There's no music from them.
Nairobi ni nyumbani.
Let's get loud. Let's get loud. Turn the music up to hear that sound. Let's get loud. Let's get loud.
Turns away. The sun sends the day. Creeping into the gloom.
I promise to love you like you. Even though you broke my heart, and I lay here in the dark, tears rolling down my face.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
My friend did, for my friend did. The ones that true and not sell out. That one up for my friend did, for my friend did. When not about for the money alone. This that one.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hii ya maisha ni msimu, bonyeza *811*759#.
Maisha ni misimu, kuna kupanda na kung'oa. Maisha ni misimu, kuna kujenga na kubomoa. Maisha ni misimu, kuna kulia na kucheka. Maisha ni misimu, kuna vita na amani. Tazama, Mungu wa misimu anaenda kubadili mwaka wa kilio uwe kicheko, vita viwe amani, bomoa.
Ili kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya maisha ni msimu, bonyeza *811*759#. *811*759#.
用一段故事建筑一座城堡。
All of our creditors came around, but we couldn't pay them all, so they just robbed us.
Today I'm going to teach you about generosity.
And the way you do that is by taking my money from me?
How will you get the money to pay off your house? How are you ever gonna win your wife back?
I want to protect those I hold dear. I want to help the folks here, but I can do nothing.
This house doesn't belong to you. If you want to live here, pay up. If you won't pay, then get lost and don't come back. I don't need a useless son like you.
用一段故事建筑一座城堡，回放进去后就不再打扰。
Good afternoon. I'm glad to bring you this live broadcast after quite a long leave. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for creating time. My name is Irene Muchuma Odim. My co-anchor on sign language interpretation this afternoon is Lensa Odinga, on a day that we continue to follow the mixed reactions from the Kenyans at large. This as Meru Senator Bithika Linturi is set to appear in a Nakuru court this afternoon. Do interact with us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Top story this afternoon, 94 foreigners of Ethiopian origin, including minors, have been nabbed at Kitengela town in Kajiado County. The foreigners, all male, were smoked out of their hideout by police officers in an apartment within Milimani area in Kitengela, following reports of suspicious business within the isolated premise.
In a raid led by Milimani Police Post Commanding Officer Nathaniel Adika, the immigrants said to be on transit to South Africa through the porous Namanga border were found living in a deplorable condition in Kitengela, Kajiado County. 44 of them were minors. The seemingly frail and hungry men were found semi-naked and barefoot in an alleged effort to restrain their movements in what security apparatus are treating as a case of human trafficking.
Lakini naleta kontena meja siku saa 8 ingiza ndani, hata watu moja mekelele na biga tumiga rungi, lakini shida mingi sana. Nimelala chini, hata shida tu tembea kwenye mguu, siku 3 kwenye mguu tembea, watu wa Kenya 3 na biga, lakini hata sasa hivi mimi natokea kwenye Ethiopia miezi 4.
The men are said to be brought in small groups, with some having been in the apartment for 4 months. They claim to have been lured into the country by being promised job opportunities at Moyale town, but later arrested by men in uniform who claimed to be police officers before being transported to unknown destinations.
Hii shida yetu. Alafu saizi na saidieni basi. Ontoke na umbani yetu. Ajui umbani yetu. Baba yetu ajui, kaka yetu ajui, kulale tu uko msiku ndani tu. Saizi yenu tu.
Isinya Sub-County Police Commander Ansent Kaloki says the immigrants will be taken to court before being deported to their country. He says investigations into the matter have been launched to establish the cartel involved in human trafficking. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I'm Wamboi Otiende.
The Kenya County Government Workers Union of Mombasa have suspended their strike scheduled for 18th January following bilateral talks with the County Governor Hassan Joho to disburse their salaries by Monday morning, as well as revise their collective bargaining agreement. Meanwhile, health workers in Mombasa have threatened to down their tools in 24 hours if the governor in the area-led administration does not heed to their demands. Our reporter June Karisa joins us live from the county of Mombasa. June, good afternoon, and bring us up to speed with the latest developments from your end.
Good afternoon, Irene and Muchuma. Of course, as you have rightly put it, the issues here are just to resolve the industrial dispute that is currently ongoing with the Mombasa County government workers now. There are 2 groups, of course, as you have rightly mentioned. There are the County Government Workers Union who have suspended, of course, their strike, but we have the health workers who are threatening by midnight they will be paralyzing health activities in this particular county. Of course, I'm with the county secretary to just give us an update and the way forward of this particular industrial dispute. Karibu sana, Bwana Job Tumbo, where are we and what is the way forward?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to address some of these issues through the media platform. I want to say that indeed we are facing some form of industrial action by the staff led by the unions, and you will realize again that if you look at the Labour Act does provide for mechanisms in which some of these disputes can be sorted out. We strongly believe as government that discussions on these issues that arise is the surest way of handling disputes without necessarily destabilizing service delivery or even hurting the economy of this county and country. Now, we've had a number of meetings with the unions, tried to address some of the concerns that they've raised. Ultimately, we had a meeting led by His Excellency the Governor, who then made an undertaking that these matters will be solved by the end of this week. Obviously, you'll have officials who will agree with that position, and some, of course, will not totally agree. But we think and we feel that the approach by the governor and the route that he took was the surest way of dealing with the current impasse. As we speak right now, the governor has instituted certain measures. I'm very hopeful, but that in the next couple of days, this issue will have been resolved. But I'm also alive to the fact that when you have a group of workers in any institution, some of these things are bound to happen. Grievances are about to happen, and that is part of the work that the leaders undertake. But most importantly is that we need to be alive to the fact that we are public servants, and our primary role is to provide these services to the Mwananchi, because we are funded through taxpayers' money. And my request at this point is that if we are encountered by such a situation, the best way and the most civil way of dealing with it is by sitting around a table and talking about the issues and finding sustainable solutions. That's part of leadership. So as we speak right now, the governor took a lead and he's given direction. Certain things have been put in place, and I'm sure by the end of this week, everything shall be in order.
We have talked with the union, of course, and they have informed us that some of the salary has started rolling out to some of the staff. But we have the health workers, and I'm sure that from tomorrow it will be a very big disaster, as I can put it, in our hospital. What can you probably shed more light to the health workers so that they can avert this situation?
Well, I'm happy that you've actually acknowledged that some of the grievances that they had raised, which have been taken up by the governor, have started yielding fruit, and that salaries are coming through. I would be very, very disappointed if and when the doctors continue with the strike. I would urge them and encourage them that, based on the meeting that they had with His Excellency the Governor on Friday, they need to give that discussion a chance. Indeed, salaries have started trickling through. The NHIF cover has been activated. So I don't think it would be prudent for them to adopt a very hard stance in this particular case, given that at least their meeting, in my own view, has yielded fruits.
That was the County Secretary, Muchuma, just shedding more light on the industrial dispute that is currently going on at the Mombasa County government. We will...
Karisa engaging the county administration after the industrial dispute in the region. We do apologize for that technical hitch on sound. On to politics now. Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula has urged political leaders to desist from making utterances that may throw the country into turmoil ahead of the 2022 general election. This even as Defense Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa took issue with the madoadoa remarks made by Meru Senator Mithika Linturi during a political rally in Eldoret, calling on political leaders to exercise tolerance and sobriety during their campaigns.
Sisi tunataka kuwa kwa serikali ambayo inayokuja, lakini niwaambie nyinyi mtusichezee, watu hawashirikishwi mtusicheze na Wakenya. Na vile nawaomba ni kwamba madoadoa yale mlio nayo hapa muweze kuondoa.
It is these remarks by Meru Senator Mithika Linturi during a Saturday rally organized by Deputy President William Ruto in Eldoret that continue to create jitters among the political class. Defense Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa says such utterances may rekindle the flames of the 2007 post-election violence.
Waswahili wanasema usipoziba ufa utajenga ukuta. Hatungependa tuone matamshi kama haya, haswa eneo la Rift Valley. Bonde la Ufa kuna historia, a very painful history, ambako tumekuwa na matamshi kama haya na maafa yamepata jamii zingine. So jamii ya Waluya wengi wameumia, jamii ya Wakikuyu, Wakisii, Wajaluo, kwa ajili ya wale ambao walikuwa wanaita jamii hizi madoadoa.
The CS challenged political leaders to trade with caution in their campaigns in a bid to safeguard the unity of this country.
Nimefurahi kusikia ya kwamba yule aliyetoa matamshi ya kutatanisha Senator Linturi amekamatwa na anachukuliwa hatua. Tunataka hiyo iwe funzo kwa wale ambao hawachungi ndimi zao, hasa wakati huu wa siasa, mwaka wa uchaguzi. Tunataka yeyote anayekuja kutembea maeneo haya auze sera zake kwa amani, lakini asichochee jamii.
Sentiments echoed by Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula, who was speaking separately after meeting a section of Ford Kenya leaders.
Tafadhali viongozi wenzetu wanasiasa, tuepukane na kutoa matamshi ambayo yanaweza kuleta taharuki au kuleta uhasama kati ya wananchi na jamii mbalimbali katika nchi yetu, kwa sababu haya yote tumeyaona, tumeyapitia hapo mbeleni.
And leaders from Makueni, led by Makueni Speaker Douglas Mbilu and a section of MCAs, say they will work with like-minded leaders to spur development in the region.
Wanaowania hizo viti vya ugavana na vile vingine ni vizuri, na itakuwa ni jambo la maana lazima wao kuketi chini na washikadau wa constituency ya Makueni, ikiwemo district ya ama sub-county ya Wote, which is Makueni, sub-county ya Kathonzweni, the larger Kathonzweni, na sub-county ya Zawi ambao ni Zawi na Mbitini ward. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu wauzishwe pale kwa uongozi na sana kimaendeleo.
Liana yafuatayo kwamba Makueni kama eneo la uwakilishi katika bunge la kitaifa limebaki nyuma sana kiuongozi. Na sasa tukasema katika uongozi uliopo wa sasa hatuna shida na huo, lakini yale yajayo ya mwaka huu 22 lazima watu wa Makueni wawe ndani ya uongozi ambao ujao.
For Lunchtime News, I'm Safin Acheng Ouma.
Deputy President William Ruto has asked state security agencies to impartially deal with all hate-mongers across the political divide. Speaking during the ongoing UDA political rally at the Bomet Green Stadium in Bomet County, Ruto condemned remarks by Meru Senator Mithika Linturi, saying the lawmaker's language was inappropriate. The Deputy President further cautioned politicians allied to UDA to be mindful of their language and avoid making inflammatory statements. Meru Senator Mithika Linturi on Saturday during the DP's rally in Eldoret asked the locals to reject people opposed to the DP's candidature, terming them as Madoa Doa.
Agree with any talk that profiles individuals or groups or communities, because we are a national party that brings all the communities of Kenya together. And let me say, for those who are talking about Senator Linturi made a statement which he regrets, a statement that had inappropriate language, and Senator Linturi has apologized. He has withdrawn the statement and he has unconditionally apologized to the people of Kenya. And we want to say, going forward, and I want to tell members of my team, the Hustler Nation, that all of us must mind our language. All of us must be careful about what they say, so that we can unite this country, because that is what the Hustler Nation believes in. And let me say, for the avoidance of doubt, I want to ask the institutions charged with making sure that we have a peaceful nation, a peaceful election, that they must apply the law in a manner that does not create two sets of laws for two sets of groups. We want every insider in Kenya, whether they belong to UDA or they belong to the other side, we want the law to apply equally so that we can secure our nation.
Deputy President William Ruto in Bomet urging Kenyans to unite and to be mindful of their language. This as Meru Senator is expected to appear in a Nakuru court this afternoon. It is a news item that you are keeping a close eye and will be bringing you reactions as and when we receive. In other news, a family in Mombasa has come to the aid of a family home of the elderly and homeless that has been hit hard by food shortages as the coronavirus pandemic continue taking a toll in the economy. The Mombasa couple decided to celebrate the birthday of one of their own by donating an assortment food and toiletries to the orphanage of the elderly and homeless in Tidor of Mombasa County.
Has more than 50 elderly people and has been experiencing food shortages for some time now. The administrator of the center, Alex, said that despite the distribution of food rations from well-wishers, the situation continued to deteriorate.
Changamoto ambazo tunazo hapa, kuna wazee hawana vitanda vyenyewe ni vya zamani vimevunjika, halafu kuna kunguni, halafu kuna baadhi ya nguo ambao wazee pia hawana.
Tuko na matajiri wengi sana katika Kenya yetu, hata nyinyi mnajua, lakini hakuji kutuangalia. Na nyinyi mmejitolea mkaja kutuangalia hii masaa, mkajitolea kwa masaa na mkajitolea kwa pesa zenyu na kwa roho zenu. Kwa hivyo Mungu ambariki sana, na tutakuwa tukimwombea.
Among the beneficiaries were the family of Hamisi Mwaguya and his wife, who however called on the Mombasa County government to address the looming strike by health workers so that the elderly do not have to worry when they need medical care.
Kitu ambacho tutaendelea kufanya kutia moyo wenzangu, na si Nzingo peke yake au Malha ama Abi, ni umri wetu wote ambao tunaweza kushikana pamoja, kwa sababu umoja ni nguvu na kusaidia watu wazima.
Kwa hivyo mimi ni kutaka kuomba serikali ya jimbo la Mombasa iangalie haya masuala ya madaktari ambao wanaangalia wananchi wa Mombasa, ambao wanaangalia hawa wazee wetu ambao ni wagonjwa, ili wasifanye ile mgomo.
Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
Kenyans have been urged to come out in large numbers and register as voters ahead of the planned voter registration scheduled for 17th January. Speaking during the voter registration launch in Kibra, Shujaa Warriors Group encouraged Kenyans to vote in visionary leaders who will turn around the economy of the country. Those who are yet to collect their identity cards from various sub-county offices have also been urged to do so before the registration starts. The group further urged politicians to desist from inciting Kenyans against each other, while at the same time calling on the youth not to be misused to cause violence.
Kura na tumekuja kuelezea vijana wetu hapa Kibira waweze kuchukua vitambulisho vyao vile ambavyo viko kwa machifu na kwa DC.
Most people are not registered voters. Some of them don't even have their IDs. So we have tried to make sure that within this 1 week, we collect all the uncollected IDs so that come 17th, those uncollected IDs can translate into voters cards.
Tunaambia vijana wetu katika nchi yetu ya Kenya wasifuate wale viongozi ambao wanakuja kuleta vita katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Shujaa Warriors tunatangaza Kenya mzima, tunaeneza amani.
On to health matters now. The World Health Organization, WHO, has warned against describing the Omicron variant as mild, saying it is killing people across the world. Recent studies suggest that Omicron is less likely to make people seriously ill than previous COVID variants. However, according to WHO, the record number of people catching it has left health systems under severe pressure.
The World Health Organization says that the number of COVID-19 global cases has increased by 71% in the last week and in the Americas by 100%. The Global Health Body further says that among severe cases worldwide, 90% were unvaccinated. According to WHO, while Omicron does not appear to be less severe compared to Delta, especially in those vaccinated, it does not mean it should be categorized as mild.
Just like previous variants, Omicron is hospitalizing people and it's killing people. In fact, the tsunami of cases is so huge and quick that it is overwhelming health systems around the world.
On Monday, the U.S. recorded more than 1 million COVID-19 cases in 24 hours. Authorities in the Chinese port city of Tianjin said they began a citywide testing campaign of its 14 million residents after a cluster of 20 children and adults tested positive for COVID-19, including at least 2 with the Omicron variant. Indian authorities reported 159,632 new COVID-19 cases on Sunday, forcing several states to impose new restrictions in an effort to curb the spread of the virus. Israel, which has begun administering a fourth jab to its most at-risk groups, announced eased access to home COVID-19 tests to allow people to decide whether to quarantine at home amid shortages in shops and complaints about high prices. Data released on Sunday said Africa had registered a total of more than 10 million coronavirus cases. Statistics from the Center for Disease Control showed there had been 10,028,508 cases reported by the African Union's 55 member states since the outbreak of the pandemic. Globally, there has been 298,915,721 confirmed cases of COVID-19, including 5,469,303 deaths reported to the World Health Organization. As of January 8, 2022, a total of 9,128,987,353 vaccine doses had been administered. Purity Museo, Lunchtime News.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. Quick acknowledgements. Wesley Onchanga, you're watching from Nyaribari, Masaba. Enos Omondi, you're saying you're watching KBC Channel 1 from Nairobi, the Central Business District. And Patrick Kadoka, you're watching KBC Channel 1 from Ruiru. Keep on texting. We are coming back after this break. Stay with us.
Tusirudi nyuma kwa mipaka na nchi kufungwa. Tusirudi kwa biashara na shule kufungwa. Kwa kutoweza kukutana. Kwa kutengana na tuwapendao. Tusirudi nyuma.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendelee na maisha vizuri.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge,
pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge,
pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendeleze maisha bora kwa ajili ya wapendao, nchi yetu na usoni wetu. Kwa ajili yetu sisi sote. Pata chanjo. Kaa chonjo. Kuhakikisha nchi yetu na uchumi wetu umestawi katika uwazi. Tusirudi nyuma.
Look for another machine, swipe my card. Kama hiyo machine imezeka, get another one.
Hatuwezi lala njaa. Palipo na nyota, watu hawezi kulala njaa.
We are not broke.
So nini mbaya? Mbona hatuna pesa?
Utaingia na wapi? Labda tumia mazingaombwe.
Na ukiamka utafurahi sana mwanangu. John Tibili.
Thank you for staying with us. Time for business news, and we cross over to the county of Kajiado. My colleague Regina Manyara is with the tourism stakeholders. This as they try to bring back life in the tourism industry in a sector that has been affected, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Regina, good afternoon. Paint for us the picture in the county of Kajiado. Regina, if you can hear me, what is the picture for us in the county of Kajiado in line with tourism matters? We understand it is one of the industries that have been largely affected, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And right now, each and every stakeholder is trying to put the best foot forward to ensure that life is back in the tourism industry.
Good afternoon, Irene Muchuma. Very well put. As you rightfully said, that the tourism industry was worst hit with matters COVID-19 disruptions owing to the disruptions to global travel. But what stakeholders have come to learn in that 1 year is that domestic tourism can continue keeping the tourism industry afloat. Currently, we are at Kisamis, which is part of Kajiado West County. And we're going to be culminating this 3-day tour of the Kajiado circuit to give an alternative in as far as tourism portfolio diversification is concerned, to focus on matters culture. Those especially who live around Nairobi County know Kajiado is very famous for its meat delicacies. A majority of Kenyans have come out and say that, you know, we go to Kona Baridi, we go to Ole Polos and enjoy some special meat delicacy. While this particular tour will also be exposing the rich Maasai culture. This comes, or rather, in the wake of a UNESCO certification for a prehistoric site under the Ogasai village in Kajiado, where we are going to be visiting. And also we're going to be having an opportunity to also visit the Ma Museum. You heard correct, Irene. This is a museum that has gone out of its place to actually, you know, put forth what is unique about the Ma culture. If you go back to what happened over the last year on the COP26, also the issues of climate and how climate change will affect some of these prehistoric sites. Once they pitted to have this certification by UNESCO, this particular village that comprises of 1,500 persons came together, collected their artifacts, and also created a place where they can impart not only to us Kenyans, but also international tourists, why indeed the Ma community is something to behold when it comes to matters tradition and culture. So we'll also be having that conversation with those who enjoy birding. We understand that this is a place that is very rife for birding, and a fun fact is that we have a place in Kajiado County, Kajiado West to be precise, where vultures come to retire. That is going to be coming on along as we continue with this tour. So from us, as we embark on this particular journey, that is a wrap until such a time when we can compile a comprehensive news piece to bring you up to speed with what is happening in the Kajiado tourism circuit.
Well put, Regina. Indeed, it is an industry that we need to traverse, and we hope to look forward at the Ma Museum. Still on tourism matters, the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife will not revise its vaccination certificate requirements for hotel customers as requested by a section of tourism industry players. And we have details on this, even as leaders spoke during the handover of anti-poaching surveillance vehicles and motorcycles to the Kenya Wildlife Service. Tourism Permanent Principal Secretary Fred Segor said there is no simple trade-off between business and health, and therefore the government will continue following strict ministry health guidelines.
When it comes to Tourism, of course, as a country, health issues is paramount, and as directed by Minister of Health, we work very closely to ensure that the policy on the side of government is followed from a government point of view. And when it comes to issues health, the Ministry of Health is in the forefront in giving direction. And whenever we are handling issues tourism, we ensure that we work closely with them.
Truck drivers plying the Busia-Malaba border have rejected proposal of an importer shouldering a new levy imposed on them. Movement is now at a standstill as traffic continues to pile up at the border. Drivers have continued protesting the directives, saying the importer will not accept but instead redirect the levy on the transporter. If not resolved, the dispute will put a dent to business in the East African bloc.
Business at the Kenya-Uganda border at Malaba in Busia County had come to a standstill after Kenya truck drivers staged protest following President Yoweri Museveni's fresh directive, which stated that the drivers were required to have mandatory COVID-19 tests at a cost of 3,600 shillings despite having negative test certificates. The drivers had been denied entry into Uganda despite showing proof that they had been fully vaccinated. They added that the move would impact the business between the two countries as some of them were transporting perishable goods to the neighboring country. The Kenya Drivers Associations have rejected a proposal by Uganda government officials that an importer shoulders the new levy slapped upon the truck drivers plying along the Great Lake region. He said that it's better that the importer should directly pay the fee because transporters earn low wages and deductions will be catastrophic to them. Political leaders have asked the national government to urgently address traffic snarl up along Busia-Malaba border, saying the country is losing business, undermining economic growth.
Katika protocol ya health ya East African Community na desk moja ambayo inakaliwa na viongozi na maofisa wa afya. Ule driver anatoka Mombasa kama amebeba kibali cha kuonyesha amechanjwa, iwe signed na hawa viongozi au maofisa kutoka nchi zote. Akifika Uganda, Waganda wanaona stamp yao na signature yao.
Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mtai.
Across the borders, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has officially backed tough new sanctions on Mali, including border closures and a trade embargo. This is in response to a delay in holding elections following a 2020 military coup. The West African leaders also agreed to cut financial aid and freeze Mali's assets at the Central Bank of West African States, as stated in a final declaration. Here now are the details of this and others from across the continent.
ECOWAS says the proposal by Mali's military rulers to hold elections in December 2026 simply means that an illegitimate military transition government will take the Malian people hostage during the next 5 years. As per the Economic Community's suggestion, an interim civilian government would provide a conducive environment to sustain trade and relations within the regional bloc. ECOWAS has given an ultimatum to the military leaders to facilitate an election by February, otherwise suffer complete boycott from her neighbors. The bloc insists the move to return to civilian rule would serve the greater region, as it seeks to uphold fundamental principles of governance and contain regional instability. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Egypt has approved the launch of an e-portal for managing smartphone wallet accounts in cooperation with the National Telecom Regulatory Authority. The CBE says through this portal, users can make queries about any electronic wallets registered with their cell numbers, as well as unsubscribe from the wallet for free without having to visit the branch of the service provider. The country's central bank says it is keen to provide digital financial services that are easy and flexible to suit all segments of society in a way that supports the efforts of the state and its institutions. The new standardized e-portal aims to create a shift towards a digital society that is less dependent on cash. The portal will sync users' e-wallets across the country, providing one platform for digital payments. Finally, fuel exploration by oil giant Shell along South Africa's wild coast has been put on hold after the Grahamstown High Court granted an interdict against seismic scanning. This will continue until a second part of an interdict is heard. The latest stand against the corporation's plan of using high decibel air guns to map potential oil and natural gas deposits saw locals protest the arrival of the 130-meter-long seismic blasting vessel at the Cape Town harbour. While Shell claims to be operating within the bounds of the law due to its stakeholder consultation process as part of the environmental management, a case has been made that a loophole has been exploited by the Petroleum Corporation. Reporting for Lunchtime News, my name is Hibak Said.
Sri Lanka's president has asked China to restructure its debt repayments as part of efforts to help the South Asian country navigate its worsening financial situation. In the last decade, China has lent Sri Lanka over $5 billion for projects including roads and airports and ports. But critics say the money was used for unnecessary schemes with low returns. Details of this and more in our global news roundup.
Sri Lanka's President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said it would be a great relief to the South Asian country if attention could be paid on restructuring the debt repayments as a solution to the economic crisis that has arisen in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. He also asked China to provide concessional terms for its exports to Sri Lanka, which amounted to around $3.5 billion last year. In recent months, Sri Lanka has been experiencing a severe debt and foreign exchange crisis, which has been made worse by low tourist income during the pandemic. Sri Lanka has to repay about $4.5 billion in debt this year. Meanwhile, India's competition watchdog has ordered an investigation into Google following allegations from news publishers claiming the tech giant had broken some antitrust laws. In its order, the Competition Commission of India says Google dominates certain online search services in India and may have imposed unfair conditions on news publishers. The complainant's Digital News Publishers Association, which comprises the digital arms of some of India's biggest media companies, said Google denied fair advertising revenue to its members. News organizations which have been losing advertising revenue to online aggregators such as Google have complained for years about tech companies using stories in search results to other features without payment. Finally, emerging economies must prepare for U.S. interest rate hikes, the International Monetary Fund said, warning that faster-than-expected Federal Reserve moves could rattle financial markets and trigger capital outflows and currency depreciation abroad. In a blog published Monday, the IMF said it expected robust U.S. growth to continue, with inflation likely to moderate later in the year. The global lender is due to release fresh global economic forecast on January 25th. The IMF says a gradual, well-telegraphed tightening of U.S. monetary policy will likely have little impact on emerging markets, with foreign demands offsetting the impact of rising financing costs. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
Well done, Mutai. Insurance Regulatory Authority is challenging underwriters to enhance value and trust in insurance to grow uptake, while officially handing over an insurance operating license to Equity Life Assurance, which is a subsidiary of Equity Group. Insurance Regulatory Authority Chair Abdirahim Haitha said there is need to increase the number of players so as to lower the cost of premiums.
Kenya is ranked among the top 3 African nations in insurance penetration. However, insurance penetration in Kenya currently stands at 2.4% against a global average of 7.2%. The Insurance Regulatory Authority is now calling on established firms to step up subsidiaries with separate structures and commercial agreements in line with the regulator to tap into the market.
When you're selling insurance, you're telling trust. And when people trust the name, they buy into it. A wide, a distributor network that you already have that you can utilize to sell the product.
Speaking during the official handing over of an insurance operating license to Equity Life Assurance, Equity Group CEO James Mwangi said the long-term strategy of the new subsidiary is to ensure that more Kenyans take up insurance as a way of cushioning themselves against risks.
Insurance would be to complement what the financial sector has played. Protection is the biggest tool of protecting the quality of the assets of a banking industry.
The regulator is challenging players to enhance distribution and value for the customer to grow trust in underwriting.
Make our contribution, maybe in making protection more inclusive, maybe trying to simplify protection so that it's more widely understood by people, and hopefully make insurance protection as accessible as maybe financial access has become accessible.
Equity Life Assurance joins 61 other insurance providers in the country. The top 5 life assurance companies in Kenya by turnover, which have a combined market share of 63.4%, are Britam Life, ICEA Lion Life, Jubilee Insurance, Canada, and Sanlam Life. Benson Rioba reporting for Lunchtime News.
It is said no culture is superior or inferior to the other, but the uniqueness of some aspects of cultural practices makes some communities stand out. Such is the case with the Mijikenda community, where an adulterous wife is not divorced, but instead a fine known as malu is slapped on the man involved. Our reporter Junei Karisa retells the tales of the malu custom in this premiere episode of My Culture.
We are in Sabaki Magarini constituency, Kilifi County. This is the heart of the Mijikenda community, particularly the Giriama community. We are here to retell the tale of the Malu customs, how it has been outdated and whether or not it should be carried forward to the next generation. I'm Juni Karisa and this is My Culture. Our quest led us to the Mekatililiwa Menza Resource and Rescue Center, a hub of rich knowledge of the Mijikenda community, as narrated by the Council of Elders, popularly known as the Wazee wa Kaya. However, not all that glitters is gold. Our sit-down with the culture gatekeepers reveals how sacred the institution of marriage was for the 9 brotherly tribes.
Yule msichana ama mvulana walipokuwa wanachumbiana, wazazi walijuana. Binti alikuwa katika mamlaka ya nyanyake na kijana alikuwa katika mamlaka ya babu yake, na waliwatunza ili wasije wakaishi maisha ambayo ni aibu.
Polygamy is a way of life for the Mijikenda community. Sadly, it appears that it may be the leading contributor to cases of adultery, particularly by the women.
He loved me, but he cannot take care of me. I'll leave if he cannot take care of me. Why should I go back to him?
Tamka wa 10. Ukitoka na utoka ni heshima ya kuwa wazee wasiju, yule mzee asiju.
Mwanamke aende nje ya ndoa ama mwanamume aende nje ya ndoa, walikuwa wanapata adhabu. Ile adhabu inaitwa malu.
As orated, the act was dreaded as its repercussions were brutally shameful.
Zamani ilikuwa ni fahali wa ng'ombe. Sasa fahali huyu anachinjwa ndani ya msitu. Ule ng'ombe atachinjwa, alafu wale wawili waliokosa wataambiwa wapike nyama ya yule ng'ombe. Nyama ile wanaambiwa wawape wale umma ambao uko pale. Sasa utafikiria kwamba mama ama yule mwanamke ambaye amekosa ainame achukue nyama mpe babake ama mpe wake, ni jambo la kutia aibu kubwa sana.
Over time, the elders revised the punishment, scaling it down to fines as requested by the suitors to the offenders.
Inalingana na mimi vile nitakavotaka. Mwambie bwana huyo aliyefanya hili kosa anipatie kama 20,000. Kwangu mimi nitakuwa nimeamini na nitakuwa nimetosheka.
Kama umelipa, hata mkakutana wapi, uruhusiwi kumzulia yule mwanamume kwamba wewe ulitembea na bibi yangu.
Hefty fines arise if the woman sires children with her lover. But the question that begs in the equation is, to which man does the child belong to?
Si bibi ni yangu, mtoto ni wangu.
Once the fine is settled, it is expected that the man forgives and forgets the crime committed by the wife forever. However, what happens if the woman's lover refuses to settle the score?
If I confront you that you have committed adultery with my wife and you refuse to pay the fine, I will be forced to perform witchcraft on you. Or when we meet anywhere, I will kill you.
According to the council, Malu preserved the purity of marriage. However, to the members of the modern Mijikenda generation, Malu is just one of the old tales whose sacredness they do not appreciate.
Kama ni sawa ni shaki irudi kama vile za zamani kisheria ya wazee walikuwa wakifanya.
Malezi ya siku hizi ndio yanafanya watoto waishi mitindo ya maisha ambayo si yetu, na kwa sababu wanaishi maisha ambayo si yetu, ndoa hazina maana tena.
Does the current generation understand the sanctity and purity of marriage, or should such customs be reintegrated back to the society? Only you have the answer. From the Mekatilili Menza Resource Center in Magarini constituency, Kilifi County, this is My Culture, and I'm Juni Karisambele.
Be sure to join my colleague Junaika Karisa each and every Friday on these educative episodes, My Culture. In other news, teachers and learners in Milimani Community Primary School in Malindi, Kilifi County, are pleading for assistance to help them address an infrastructural challenge at the institution. The school, which is near the town center, has only 2 toilets, lacks enough classrooms, and has no desks for learners. Now, Purity Mseu reports, and she tells us the pupils share toilets with their teachers irrespective of gender.
This school in Malindi, Kilifi County, has only 1 toilet that is shared among teachers and learners. The teachers are also forced to sit under this cashew nut tree as the institution lacks an office block. Learners are forced to sit on the floor as the school has less than 10 desks in an institution of 188 pupils.
Wakati wa kuandika inakuwa vigumu kwa sababu hawana pahali pa kuwekelea, ni kwenye mapaja. Madawati ya kutosha hakuna, ni kama madawati mawili yaliyo letwa na mfadhili mmoja.
Kuna floor iliharibika, pia mabati ni hivyo ambavyo mmesikia hapo yanachapa.
Joseph Kambi Kazungu, a retired teacher who acts as the deputy head teacher at the school, says the institution has made the learning environment unconducive.
Angalau kama kutakuwa na usaidizi kama tunavyojua sisi, ni vile vilivyojengwa tayari vile. na kuna kisehemu kingine kule, ukiangalia kule kuna kisehemu kingine kule. Hicho nacho tuliambiwa huyo mwenyewe amekubali kukitoa kwa shule.
He said the school, which is run by parents, requires urgent intervention because the challenges pose a major health hazard to both the learners and staff.
Serious. Because ukiona watoto choo ni kimoja cha wasichana na wavulana pamoja na walimu. Hii ni aibu gani Malindi hii jamani?
The school was first built by Devolution Chief Administrative Secretary Gideon Mungaro when he was elected Member of Parliament for Malindi. Then William Tengo built 2 more classrooms when he was elected MP in 2016. Purity Museo, Lunchtime News.
For sports news, Julio Tavares netted a late first half goal that gave Cape Verde a win against Ethiopia in the Africa Cup of Nations Group A match that was played last night at Paul Biya Stadium in Cameroon. Today, 4 matches are on card, with Morocco set to face Ghana while Senegal face Zimbabwe.
Julio Tavares' close-range header secured the victory against the Warriors, who were reduced to 10 men following a red buyer's early dismissal. Teklemari and Shanko Barcha produced several saves to keep Ethiopia in the match following their numerical disadvantage. The Warriors' game plan suffered a setback in the famous Cameroonian capital when centre-back Yared Baye brought down Tavares after 7 minutes. Referee Helder Martins produced a red card following an on-field video assistant referee review.